Hello, check, 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 check. All right, so I think everything seems fine, and we can just continue going about our business. Yes. Yeah, so the thing is, right now I'm trying to create additional layers in the melody section of this remix. We are working on a drop, and we already have vocals and our chops etc sorted. Our drums are already sorted in here in the drum bus. All the tracks are sorted, so right now the struggle is with filling in some of the melodic elements. I have some layers. I will trim and do the selection later, but I think right now what we can do is find a drone that really works for this particular track. Vibe that I'm trying to create on this track is a bit darker house, darker tech house. So it's still melodic, but I have used some sort of effects on the vocals to make it a bit darker. So I think we can give it a listen without the drone first. And I think now I can close all of these and just make this visible. So as you can see, the drone is barely filling it, and I'm using a pad from Massive to do that. Let it load. The patch is called Pads of Infinity, and what I'm trying to do here is I think the octave for this seems pretty fine, and I don't want to touch anything inside Massive preset settings. I don't want to touch ADSR envelope or anything in modulation section or any kind of LFO, because right now it is giving me enough sustain and it's just working decently well. I won't say it's close to perfect, but the idea is to get maximum work done in shortest time and without chasing perfection. As you can see, the drone barely sits there. I think we can just throw in a utility in here and make it a little bit, just a little bit. Maybe we can add 3 dBs of gain, and that's pretty much it. Yeah, I think with that drone would be sorted. Now what I'm trying to do here is figure out, first of all, the idea is to just figure out this bit of section, the drone bit, I mean the drop. So my another plan here is to put in some kind of arpeggiator on top of these melodic layers. So again, I would just like to solo in the melodic group of this track, and we give it a listen, and then we figure out what kind of arp can actually work on this with these kind of layers. So if you look at the combination of the sounds and call and response, you can see I have a little bit of response going on here on the at the end of the 4 bars. So fourth bar out of 4 bars is going for a bit of a response with this hoover sound. So I think our arpeggio should our arp should go in a manner so that it resolves somewhere around fourth bar. So in terms of arp, I think the tracks that we can look at shall be very much close to the chords, the notes that we can use. I think I can pick any of these if I just expand all these. I think for the arp I can use a bit of a higher octave, and at the same time I can use the same notes that the chords are using. So if I just solo in the organ and figure out what octave, how high this precisely is going. So the organ is pretty low. So we go to the next sound, probably plucks, as they won't be swelling like strings or pads. I think these notes can work, so I'll just control drag it into my ARP channel to create a copy of the MIDI. I think right now what I have to do is look at the notes that we have, and I'm not monitoring the MIDI notes as I move this. So for initial workaround, I think I won't be going into editing the MIDI. First, let's give it a go. Now for arpeggiation, if I go into my collection of instruments, for creating an arpeggio, I would preferably go with any of the synths that I personally feel works better for arpeggios. In my opinion, Analog Lab 5 is really good for that kind of purpose. Massive is also good. Serum, to my taste personally, there are a lot of the kind of sounds that Serum works great for, probably bass, keys, leads, not so much for ARP. I think I have better control on ARP if I'm using Analog Lab 5. So we can just skim through some of the presets, and we can just in the type, I think we can just go to sequence in here, and it will give us all the presets with sequence. Now some of them might be drumish sounds, so first of all let's just skim through them, then we'll figure out which one goes well. Just looping this bit in and putting in the loop onto this. I think I can now simply hit play and see. I'll mute the mic and continue changing the presets of ARP. We'll see which preset works best. I think at this point, this might look fine, just fine for the context of just the melodic group, but I think it is also important that we take the context of rest of the track. So in that context, we have to figure out if this ARP is working or not. I don't think this ARP works for me in context of rest of the track, because this is a bit more happy-ish, majorish sound, and we don't want that. We want it to be on a darker side. So we'll again go with playing the track and digging some more ARPs. Although this one sounds again a bit more happy-ish, major, uplifting, bright sound, but I think we can go ahead and just look at our options here in terms of context of rest of the track. So I'm going to hit play again. Now without the arp. So it just adds a little bit of very subtle movement into the melodic part of the track. And I think when we start filling in ear candy, and when we start working on the automation bit to create dynamics, to create movement in the track, then we can cover more of the movement. Right now the point is to create movement through melodic element like up. So I think instead of creating additional channel gain through there, I think it's a better idea to just throw in a utility and increase gain through that, so we have added 3 dBs to this. We had to do the same thing to drone. Rest of the track is also pretty low on the in terms of the gain levels, but I think we'll fix all that when we reach the mixing stage. Right now the idea is to just wind up the arrangement, wind up the production, and get done with this entire bit of track up to this point, up to the marker that I have exited, that I have marked here. And this says at 120 bpm, that's going to be roughly 3 minutes, 3.5 to 3 minute 45 seconds long track, which is a lot. But yeah, let's work on the production bits first. I think in terms of whole track, in that context, we can now work on things. Now that we have arpeggiation logged in, I think the point right now would be to just adjust some of the parameters, like probably I would like to decrease the brightness. I would like to see how timbre is affecting our arpeggio in context of rest of the track. And here from within the preset, I would not like to add any reverb or delay into it, because I would like to handle that later on when I start putting in reverb and delay in my mixing stage through return tracks. So yes, I think we can just hit play and adjust the parameters as we feel. Essentially what timbre is doing, I think brightness, decreasing brightness and increasing timbre, what it is doing, I think it is making that upper shimmer fade away a bit. So let's see where we reach with that. And again, we can fine tune these things when we enter into the mixing stage. We can throw in EQ, we can throw in saturation, we can play with individual sounds accordingly there. I think increasing the time here gives us little bit of residual tail at the end of this chord, which I think would be a nice touch to add to the already going drone sound. And all the other layers go, the release is already hit on their respective synths. There is no note playing except this Hoover sound. So under the Hoover sound, we would have bit of a complement from the consistently running drone, and then we can have some of the ARP here as well. and the tail is just enough to not bleed into the next chord, so I think that is also a good thing. So I think at this point we can just have this tail going on the way it is going. I think I am satisfied with the timbre and the time parameters here, but what I was thinking, maybe we can give delay a bit of try and see if it is giving us as like aesthetically pleasing to sound to our ears kind of a delay. And at the same time, I think we can just slightly change the timbre. Here the timbre kind of feels like it's just moving your high cut filter. As we go higher, it just decreases the highs, it just shells them off. So I think, yeah, I would be pretty good with this patch, this particular ARP, and we can go and see how the melodic group itself sounds at this point. Yeah, I think I'm satisfied right now with the drone and the ARP done, and that's enough for the melodic group. In fact, these all the chunks, I think I would let drone and ARP be as is. I don't want to change them, so I can just, arrange them in a manner like drone and ARP I'm not touching, hoover I'm not touching, and these two strings, those are for build up and other parts. So for rest of the layers, I need to check how many of these I need to arrange in a manner so that it's not everything playing together. We need to have some contrast. I need to cut some of these sounds away in some sections of the drop, and that obviously comes depending on the context. Right now I haven't put in any effects or what do we call ear candy kind of stuff in fact the build up drum fill is also pending for me. They just go silent at this point, and I have bounced stuff out of the drum rack, but yeah, I haven't done any kind of processing on any of these. So they are all just bit of a raw sound, or the samples as they were. Some of them were treated samples. In fact, let's just go from almost going into the drop and see which sounds we can eliminate from our list of sounds. Out of these 5 tracks that I have: shimmer, organ, swell, pad, and plugs. Then we'll create some sort of contrast here. Then we will, I think, be in a position to copy in the entire melodic group into second drop. Second drop, as you can see, is slightly bigger. It has a bit of an extra element to it. So we'll also need to figure out what, as you can see, hoover consistently goes in second half of second drop. So we will figure that out later. Right now we can just focus on creating contrast for these sounds. So I'll just hit play now. It sounds like one of the melodic layers is just not working. Maybe it has a bit of detune on it or something like that. So I think I would again need to go and check which one of these is this, and the best method to do that is method of elimination. I would turn each one of the tracks off one by one and see turning which one off fixes this kind of a detuned feel, and then we'll go into the track and fix what the problem exactly is. At this point, just trying to automate an EQ to be taking care of rolling off some of the highs that we have in that. I think we can just roll off the stuff. I can just zoom in and show the parameters I'm adjusting. I can just put a minus 3 dB high shelf after maybe 6K, and we can just let everything be in their usual mode. Yeah, I can just hit A and the automation lines go back. Let's see. Still a bit of harshness in there, so I need to, pull back down this one a bit more. Minus 5 dB of high shelf, cutting it. And I think yeah, I think in terms of frequency we can let it sit around 6K, and we'll again give it a go and see how much changes. See, harshness is reduced up to some extent, but the thing is, this one, the fundamental frequencies that you can see in this bit of the track, they are also pretty harsh. And if I cut them down, I cut essential sound, the character of that sound down. That's not a good idea. So essentially changing it to high cut instead of high shelf, and adjusting where the Q value and the gain value sits with respect to hearing stuff out live. Essentially that's going to give me a better result, I feel, in this case. So that's why I'm just holding this fourth EQ parameter here, and I'm just going with that. I think it has decreased harshness to up to a large extent, so I can just minimize these. And yeah, okay. So right now the point is we go back to eliminating which of these melodic sounds we can mute in which of the sections to make it more cohesive, to create some contrast in track. For that, we again go and hit play and see. Now ARP is important, drone is important. I think shimmer is also pretty much important. It's just giving us those shimmery bits on top of it all. Essentially, if I increase the time parameter here for this swell strings track number 42, I think it is making the attack faster. It's like moving actual strings a bit faster compared to when this was all the way down. Let's give it a listen and adjust the time so that it hits these chords in a manner that lies with the rest of the track. We can have a bit of a delay. These swells can be slightly delayed in contrast of rest of the track, but not a lot. So let's listen to it and adjust it on the fly. And to monitor it quickly for the timing to give us more clarity, we will just shoot up the gain of this particular track. We'll readjust it when we are done. I think this kind of works for me as a sweet spot because it feels with that kind of swell of the strings. It just pulls the chords out when rest of the tracks are done playing the chords. Just pulls towards the end of that crescendo and ends it right there. So I think it works pretty well. So I would not like to mute swell strings at any point of time throughout the drop. I don't think that that is an idea. So we can just put this up here as well. We have 4 tracks to deal with at this point of time. And we'll play the whole melodic group in context of rest of the track. So see, here's what I was discussing earlier. Here's what I was talking about. So if you look at organ and mids pad, if I solo these two together and I play them out, they are very much similar sounds. So in terms of our frequency spectrum or our soundscape, what it essentially would do is it would create some sort of masking. These two will layer on top of each other, these two will fight for space, and the frequencies combined together will not give anything else any kind of a space in wherever these two are playing. So what we can do is we can manage with a trade-off. When one of these is playing, we don't want another one to play. So right now the simplest way that I can do that is we have a response here. You know, these 4 chords, the hoover chords, work as response part of the call and response. So I need to see if one of them just here can work as a call. So essentially we have call on the first bar out of 4 and response on fourth bar out of 4, putting in the whole call and response idea. But if this sound doesn't give me that kind of call and response feel, then my other option would be to have one bar playing organ, have another bar playing mids pad, or another option would be to go uh, uh, 2 of the chords, so the 2 bars out of 4 going with one of the sounds and third bar with another sound. So that would be like A and then sound B going into release, A B C kind of pattern for these melodies. The idea here is to just create some kind of pattern, and it is all hit and try. So let's just go with these, and I would start by playing out the whole track. And I think right now what I can do is I can just, um turn off, deactivate rest of the 3 bars except the first bar, and then I can do just the opposite on the first one here. Yeah, it creates, this looks like a jigsaw, but that's essentially the point when we are trying to create contrast. It's not giving me much of the call and response, to be honest. If I just play this out, and the response is pretty noticeable. The frequencies are on the higher side of the spectrum. The it catches the ear much more easier than the call, so it won't exactly fit in the call and response idea. Probably I would have to add another melodic layer to just add in a call, or maybe I would just resample something from the vocals or existing stem instrumental, or just something that gives me the concept of call sounds to my response. But for these 2 tracks, I think we have to go with another kind of contrast, and for that we might have to just solo these two and look and hear how it goes. Probably the organ sound is not that uh prominent. What we can do at this point of time is let this organ sound play and let this mids pad only be as a supplementary layer for the first bar. Let's hear how that sounds. Speaking of call and response, what happens if I just do the same thing with shimmer? Let's try. Yeah, I think the trade-off with shimmer works so much better in terms of creating some kind of call and response. And this shimmer is coming out of Twin 3 from Fab Filter. Uh, then I have some EQ on top of it, as you can see here, just to, do some kind of low cut off the lows, decrease shelf of the highs. That was the whole point. But yeah, I think this one works fine. Now the only thing that needs to be sorted is how are we going to let the organ play even for the first bar as two layers, or are we going to cut the organ bit off? That again is a decision that we needs to make based on how everything is sounding. So you see the first bar, you have a bit more prominence. There are more sounds, there are more layers, and it is easily audible because we have some shimmer going on, and then we have mids pad as well. I think the pad in itself is pretty dominant sound. It's filling the soundscape. It might not have a very prominent attack, but it's filling the soundscape. And when layered on top of organ and shimmer and the rest of the sounds that we are playing, it gives a distinct feel to the first bar, the area where the clip is activated. I think we are good for now, and let's see. I think this lets the bass breathe in well, because our bass is a bit acidic, and there are obviously two layers, one having the sub and the lows, and then there is a acid layer which kind of works only for the highs of the bass. So I think when we have a bit lesser layers of melodic sounds, it lets bass breathe, it lets bass sound well. Sorry about my OCD kicking in, but yeah, the idea here is to deactivate or probably even delete whatever we are not using, but yeah, that's fine. So at this point, I think we are good. Now we can just quickly look at what plugs are doing. So I think plugs and shimmer combined are going into a nice call that is resolved with a nice response by Hoover. So I would say I can close this entire melody group for now, and I can call it a day in terms of melodic sounds. The next part would be to just copy in this whole thing into the second drop, and then we can, because I think we are pretty much done with the drums, and the cake is also sorted, not from a audio mixing point of view, but from production point of view. And yes, I'm using from Evo Sounds. Now the thing is, after we are done with this beat, we'll have to focus on ear candy so that we can just copy the same stuff into the second drop, and just make your life easier by copying in the stuff from drop A to drop B, because if you see, drop B is very much similar to what drop A was, or at least the first half. If you see second half, it's slightly different because I wanted slightly longer drop for the second half. And you see here, Hoover goes perfectly fine because the vocal sample that we have playing here uh, is having bit of a high energy despite this whole a cappella transposed down and its formants shifted down a little bit. Here there is a lot of energy in the vocal, so I think Hoover can really complement that thing. And we have strings from original instrumental of the track as well. If I can just quickly play solo this drop strings and show how exactly it sounds. Very subtle sounds of guitar layered with Hoover, and we will figure out what else do we want in this area. I think we definitely want I think we definitely would want to play in drone here, and I'll quickly work that up as well. But for now, I think what we can do here is just close in this melodic group. So if I just if I just select stuff like this when my group is not expanded and hit Control C, it basically lets me copy all the tracks in that group. And then I go here and I just hit Control V and it lets me paste everything as is. You see, makes my life a bit easier. So we can hit play and see how this is going. All the melodic layers right there for you. So I think now we can quickly focus on finishing in the melodic part of second drop. We have Hoover here, we have strings here. So I think for the chord reference, usually in my workflow, I just throw in a grand piano here. You can see a grand piano as an instrument from Ableton's built-in instruments. And then I just play those chords along with the a cappella to figure out what chord can work here. Might not always be the exact chord as per the original track, but we have pitch shifted, we have format shifted the a cappella, so we have to go a bit by ear in this case. So you can see here in this section I haven't drawn the MIDI because I think I directly drew in stuff into the Hoover thing. So if I just solo in the Hoover and see how it is sounding and how I can create a drone out of this, it would be nice. This essentially plays a lead sound, you know. So we can see where it is resolving. Now the originally this track works in B major, but not precisely a typical major scale. This uses a mode corresponding to a raga in Indian classical context. So we can go with the B major drone. And if you see the drone that I'm already using here, it sits on A. Sorry, my bad. We have already pitch shifted one step down. So going two semitones down, meaning from B major, we are going into E major. That's why I have a drone here sitting on the root node. So why not we just copy this drone and see if it works. I think for the kind of dark house vibe, aligning somewhere inspired somewhere from the dark techno, dark melodic techno stuff, I think this drone works more than fine for me. Now I have a few options. I have a few very simple options. I have, in the beginning of my track when I'm running the intro before the build, a similar vocal, but the I'll make you guys listen what that is. You can see I have organ and shimmer playing there. So I don't have any Hoover playing there because I don't want that kind of lead energy from the drop to be in my intro. Just a bit of a tease. You see there are complementary notes here and there going in. while original a cappella might be going in a single note hit. That particular line, we are going with two two of the note hits in that particular time frame. So I think what I can do here is option one, copy in these and let these play here. For that, we have to again audition how exactly we are going. Yeah. So how this goes in here? See, it's the same thing, same vocal sample being played for this section of 2 bars. Not sure if for the whole 4 bar, but I think it's worth checking. Yeah, so I think we can simply copy paste this stuff from these two layers. Yes, and we only want these two layers, so we won't be taking in the whole group. And then we can just control V and control V again. It fills up plenty of our soundscape. And after that, I think these kind of notes might not work very well for arpeggio or strings kind of a thing. But plucks, can we do something with the plucks? First, let's listen how it is sounding already. Since we don't have a lot of melodic sounds in this area, our drone is getting a bit more prominent in this area. So we have already turned off utility here, but what I can do here is just ask utility to show automation. Now, first of all, I want utility on off automation here, and I think I can put in off and on around here, and yeah, then I think I can just have my on off going on around the end of this 8 bar section. Now I can just quickly show automation for this. I could have done this through this bit here as well, but yeah, whatever suits your workflow, there's no judging. Or I can, I have already automated utility on off, so I may probably don't need to automate gain. I can simply hit -2 dB, -2.5 dB, and just cross check. Sounds slightly better, sits within the sounds that we have at this moment going on around here. Now we need to figure out what else can we really put in here. I don't want to necessarily clutter this part because this is second half of the drop that is straight away goes into outro. We are anyway slowly taking the energy away, so we are anyway going to slowly have our drop coming in from multiple melodic sounds to slightly lesser sounds, and then when we move towards outro, I think I'm planning to just have even lesser sounds, maybe let the drone continue in for a bit, maybe have ARP coming back in but with lesser movement. That we'll figure out in a bit, but I think I'm fine with how second half of the drop sounds and how the entire second drop sounds. And this is all raw, we don't have any effects, any air candy, any pull push happening here. Now talking about the groove of the track is not causing a lot of shuffle. It's not over groovy. There is still a lot of static in the track. There is not a lot of randomness. And I think when working on remixes like this, for me personally, the idea is to let people recognize the track, let people recognize the a cappella. This in particular might not be a very sing-along one, but mostly for these kind of remixes, the a cappella is a sing-along a cappella, and I don't want to create too much groove and too much shuffle in the groove where a cappella is going on so as to, confuse the listener. Yes, these are made at 128 bpm. This particular track is going towards what do we call as Bollytech or Indo house or Desi house kind of vibe, but I would still like to steer slightly away from our typical super groovy kind of stuff because I'm trying to keep the vibe a bit darker and I don't want the groove to be too prominent. More so when my bass is already creating some movement here. So let's give it a listen one more time and then we can start working on ear candy and other stuff. So if I solo in quickly just the kick, bass and drums, let everything else be silent here. So you can see there are elements here and there. There are some claps coming in at accentuating your fourth and just leading into your first again. There are shuffles going on, but I've tried to keep everything a bit more subtle here instead of making grooves way too dominant, you know. So I think right now we are fine with both the drops done. If I look at the melodic elements again, I think I have melodic elements for second half of the intro. That's how I wanted. I wanted very initial bit of intro to just go in easy without anything. Call it kind of extended area of a track for DJs to mix in easily. Nothing much going on. You can see a kind of a sinusoidal wave going on with your snare-ish sounds. And hats play along with these kind of things. I think, yeah, we can then go into the second half of intro. Some of the layers come in slowly, vocal chops come in slowly, then we go into the build. And the entire spoken vocal phrase comes in. If anyone has really listened to this track a lot, they would be able to relate or recognize, okay, this is relatable stuff. We can recognize that. But if they haven't listened to it really, let it be. When they go into the drop, they would be able to connect, okay, the initial vocals were also from the same track. So we just tease in a cappella here. We don't give up a whole a cappella. I think every time I listen going into the drop, I need to cut just first bar away for something. There is something that's not really going sitting well with my ears. I think I need to check what that thing out, check what that thing might be. Something with a lot of attack, probably these plugs. No, not plugs. Something else. It's a hit and trial to figure out what that thing is and probably either decrease the attack on that thing or right here just use your good old reverb and record that, resample the recorded sound and then put it in reverse and let it slowly build into this particular attack of the sound. I think it's a hit and trial and I'll figure out what that thing is. I think the culprit in this case is ARP. So let's hear everything without soloing in anything and let's see if ARP is what's actually bothering me. Yeah, definitely it was up that was bothering me. So now what we can do in here? Cool. I think I have two options here. Start up slightly later, like just grab this particular chord, and I don't want where it ends to be shortened. I only want where it starts to be shortened. I'll just grab these notes here and maybe let it go away a bit. Let's start with a bit more and here, and then we can see if you want to cut it back a bit. This takes away a whole tick of this particular beat. I think it is slightly improved. I need to do the same thing that I have done with R with the Lux as well. So what I would do simply, I would just drag in this MIDI here that they both sit at perfect time away from the very first beat of our drop. Now this sounds a bit more awkward and rushed because we don't have any kind of effects or ear candy going in. I think right now the focus can be that we create some sort of a brass horn-ish sound. So as you can see, I usually have this template where I work on remixes. So this particular one, for ear candy, I have just number tracks and then color coded and labeled by numbers, etc. And then I rename the tracks based on what particular effects I'm putting in here. So you can see the whole group for the whole track is empty right now. And drawn MIDI is also something that we don't need, but there's no harm in keeping it sitting right there. So I think first of all, I want some sort of impact. And in terms of impact, again, this could be a melodic impact. This could be percussive, explosive kind of sound. But I think right now, in this context, I would want a melodic impact. So for me, melodic impact that can work here could be a loud horn, brass, something that gives you a sudden shock. So I think the idea here is to just go through probably some brass sounds in our sample packs, and let's just dig through. These are percussive hits. No, not worth it. What happens in case we have these kind of brass sounds, but they are in a certain key? We just look at the character of that sound, if it fits our whole vibe or not, because we can always load the sample and then detune it to a particular key. Luckily, I have a few here that one is at A that can work as it is, that can be worked with. Then there is G, I can pitch it down, pitch it up to A. There is A sharp, I can simply pitch it down. And the ones at D I would likely avoid because there would be a lot of pitching up or pitching down. So let's just skim through some of the samples and see which particular one can really fit in the beginning of our drop here, the first beat as we enter the drop. We need something dramatic, something impactful. The one in the G and one in the A sharp both seem promising. What I would be, and you can see evolution of sound, Deceiver Volume 3, evolution of sound, that is always, becoming the final selection when it comes to when it comes to samples. They can be melodic samples, they can be percussive samples, they can be loops. If you just look at the drum rack that I have, the drums group, drums bus, there is a drum rack. These are all played in or recorded in drums. And after creating a basic drum rack and exploding it into different tracks, I had some loops. Now, uh, some of the loops are often from different sound packs and sample packs, but a lot of time I just love using evolution of sound samples from Zen World. Creates polished, finished, amazing samples. Shout out to Zen World creating such amazing samples. So right now at this stage, I would have to switch between track number 46 and track number 47. 47 one after another as we go into the drop. I might have to adjust levels as well. So I'll just mute my mic and we give it a listen. Also, before we give it a listen, we would have to, pitch it up or down. So the one in A sharp, I need to pitch it down by one semitone. And the one at G, I need to pitch it up by two semitones. So now they both are at A. And then we can give them a listen one by one. I think this one is really not working. Let's give other one a go. Now that I have them pitched to A, why do I feel they both sound exactly the same? Like they were just different notes. At this point, we can also, go into the warp modes and just see what kind of, probably playing with the warping mode in tones or texture can help us achieve something sounding slightly different than how it was sounding originally. So we are editing the track number 3rd sample and I have here different warp modes. I think I would like to go with texture, and my idea initially is to go extreme and then see how much you want to dial it down. So for example, grain size, I will just go to the extreme. If you are not able to see, I would just go to the extreme grain size here, and then I would just see how it works. Then I go just other way around to the minimum grain size value and again see things. I think it works decent for me on minimum grain size, and I think it also goes in with the track here at this point of time. And by merely decreasing the levels, the gain of this particular track, I can see it feels more fitting in it. But the thing is, we don't want to be done with just one sample. For the backup point of view, we would like to have some other stabs as well. So here, this one you can see it's A minor chord. We are running our track in A major, but as I told you earlier, this is based on a particular raga, and the whole thing was produced by Himesh Reshamia. He really likes to work raga, so I think I would go with some other samples as well. It doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt to give it a try. It's A minor, but you never know what can work. And I think the idea would be here to start initially off by minus 12 dB of gain to avoid any kind of biasness we get because of sample being over loud. I don't think we need this particular to be thrown in as a reverse sound, and let just keep it idle, and we can switch between these two to figure out what works better. That's your A minor chord, and we go back to the other stab that we picked earlier. So the stab that we have, that's not a chord, that's sharper, gives us more drama, gives us more flair. I think it would only be wise to use that, and I can just ditch this chord here, and let's just dig through some more samples. It's a one-time process. If we find a sample that we really like that can fit in this vibe, this particular track, this particular point in our track, I think it's worth all the effort. Nah, nothing to my liking so far. So UK Garage, we can go see while working with samples. You don't really have to stick to uh, sample packs to your own genre, because it is always fun to look through other genres sample packs as well and figure out there might be probably some nice sample that you can use. Break the rules subtly. Nah, none of that works. I take my words back. Pro-ish samples in here. Let's see. No, that definitely doesn't work. I think I have typed in brass and I'm getting some of the limited results here. These are very, very high pitched as well as not having any kind of notation. So either I throw in some kind of pitch graph plugin on that to figure out what that is, or I throw in your good old tuner if it's able to catch. Sometimes it might not be very accurate. So when I can't find brass, what I'm going to find next, I'm going to find an explosion. And when I look through explosion, I think this might be a loop. See, this is an explosion, but it's an explosion without any tone. I need something with bit of a tone. I don't want it to be totally percussive. This one has a lot of reverb to it, and this one, when sitting at right level and layered on top of other stuff, can really lead things in really nice. So let me just dial this back down to -10 maybe, and let's hear how both of them together sound. I think I need to lower this one back down, and I think I need to increase the level for explosion. Right now it's just not audible. I think explosion has so much reverb that it's not prominently audible, and it's getting drowned under a lot of other layers. So I can see this coming up, but I think I'll have to solo this down to figure out where what is happening with the waveform. You can see this one peaks around here, so maybe I need to just shift it a bit down, and I'll see how these two together sound. I'll put on the metronome. Now at this point of time I can, just this is a detected tempo. If I just change this to, this is going to be slower. So when you manipulate a sample like that, its waveform shifts immediately and it makes sound drag a bit longer. If I just do the opposite, let's see, it loops the sound because it makes or the whole explosion shorter. It would be like a very quick sound going ooh instead of going ooh. That's the kind of effect. So it's always good to just manipulate the sample that way and give it a try. For our use case, this much of sample length works perfectly, and I think I would, when mixing, I would need to nail down the level of this explosion properly, but for now I think we can just leave them as is with a bit of tidying things up. So we have a basic explosion impact, we have a basic brass sound. Now I think at this point of time we are just looking for a downlifter kind of thing, because you have an uplifter or a riser before you go into a drop, and then you have a downlifter when you go, when you are already past this particular bridge and you are already entering. I think it would be good to just trance, doesn't hurt. I mean, we are using acid sounds in bass. We have some of the arps going a bit acidic, so if we find a downlifter that also has a bit of a touch of acid, I think this can work. But let's listen through all of these and give it a try. None of that to my liking. Let's quickly go through the next bit of samples. I really want to bet on this one because I want to see if this works. It has a bit of a metallic texture to it. And yeah, I think let's just put it down -12 to see. No, this is a standing out. This cannot work for me. I have to go back to skim through some more. Your good old laserish sound, how it sounds. I think this can still work to some extent, but it's still not a good or a great fit. We can go to gated and check a bit more options. Now I think we are going to go out of this particular folder, and I think I can just go back to the good old Zen world evolution of sound samples. And yes, what is there in drums? Okay, so we go to noise. Sweeps down is also a nice option. We can layer one layer of noise and we can put in some downlifter on top of that. We just need to, okay, these are the names. So we have these in mono and stereo both, and then we have BPM, so we can just collapse this a bit. See, this particular sounds decent. Not very decent, I mean decent to my ears. Let's see. Yeah, I think that's better to decrease its length by half. I'm just making it finish faster. 2 bars into the drop and this is totally vanished because we have a lot of vocals in the drops, and if this keeps dragging on for much longer it's going to sound interfering. So I think I'm fine with this, and I think it's time that we start renaming these tracks. So this one was brass, the next one was explosion, and the next one is sweet down. Yes, yes. And then we can close these three. I think we need to find what is called a typical downlifter at this point of time. These are some really sick downlifters. I think I'm going to pick something out of these. These really have my interest. Funny naming. I think this particular one goes to a lot of typical tech house-ish vibes. So why don't we give it a go by putting it at probably minus 15 dB and then listening how it is. In the meantime, I think it is also time that we reset the brass to its original position and let it come in slightly after our kick is done. I can't see this downlifter prominently. I can't hear it prominently. See, it's getting drowned underneath, so I think I need to pull this back out of that deep wall. Bit of a fade doesn't hurt. Yeah, it's all hit and try. It's all hit and try. So while they all come in together as impacts and then those kind of characteristic sounds, none of them actually disturbs your kicks transients because all of them are slightly faded in. At the same time, you know, this downlifter is fine, but it's melodically interfering with our track. Option 1 is to just delete this. Option 2 is to go check what are the readings on this. Based on our tuner, it seems that this one starts somewhere around, you know, D, and you know the key detector kind of plugin won't really work because it interferes how a melodic sample, a harmonic sample is worked upon. This being a downlifting kind of sample would be detected wrong. Even though I have thrown it onto this track just out of habit, I don't think it's going to help us. So I think what Zen has done here in his Evo Sounds, this house down filter, is he has started a particular key, which in this case appears to be based on a tuner. What I can also do is I can throw in span, and you see this tuner utility will show us what happens when we play the track. So you see it started coming right side of a D note, which means it probably started from E. Now, there's a lot of hit and trial here. So what we also can do here is just turn the tuner off, even though it won't change a thing if we turn the tuner off. And we are here. We will be ready to click hold as soon as we hear the first note of the sample, because what it does, it basically holds the frequency and it shows the stuff here, Uh, yeah, so let's just give it a try. See, these are your prominent frequencies, and when I hover over this, you can see it's in A. So these are your fundamental frequencies, all the peaks, D sharp, look at this is A4, look at this is D4 almost, look at this, D sharp, D sharp, A, D, and F sharp. So it is safe to say, based on tuner and span's conclusion, that this sample starts somewhere around D sharp. What do? I think we go and we pitch it up. We can keep warp mode as complex so that it doesn't change the pacing or how it pitches down. It doesn't alter the transients. It doesn't change the length of the sample at this point. I think what right now is good to do, we are a D sharp. This is already pitched down a little bit. I think we can go. So D sharp, we go +1 to E, we go +1 to F, we go +1 to F sharp, we go +1 to G and G sharp and A. So it had to go 6 semitones up from D sharp. I think we can give it a listen in context of rest of the track. Probably first with just ear candy and then rest of the track. It's like coming from up above now. God's plan. Good thing is, towards the end of this particular sample, everything finishes down. So I think I can say this is a step down lifter in the name. All this kind of naming is easier later when we are mixing, so that we can, usually in the mixing mode, I'm in this screen setup, this particular thing. So when I'm mixing stuff in, it's easier for me to either go with the help of MIDI keyboards or just mouse to dial down and properly alter the gains and maybe panning, all that kind of stuff. So there I can't really, be working with 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's why I try to rename stuff based on what is inside. If there is brass, if there is a step down lifter, explosion, sweep down, it really helps with giving the correct idea while working on the tracks. I think for today we are pretty good with this section. We have a few more effects to sort down. For example, I would need a bit of a riser, a bit of an uplifter, and definitely some kind of a drum fill. And I'm really sick of those Afro house fills going in everywhere in Bollytech. I don't want to put that. I want to put an actual drum fill, probably through one of my favorite plugins, which is Superior Drummer 3, or maybe pick it up from any of the sample packs. Options really depend. But I think we are good for today's production session, we figured out how we closed down the melodic group, we closed down some of the ear candies. We need to work on a bit more ear candy, and then we need to, compile it all together. Maybe I'll sit on it again after having my meal. And right now, this is where we are. We need to finish in some more ear candy, polish it up a little bit, and then we can call production finished and move towards mixing stage. So I'm assuming this track requires 2-3 more hours of studio work, but I think we'll be good with that.